And on the line with us this morning, Nick Powers. Nick is with a company called Uncom. Nick, did I say that right? Uncom?
It's uncommon, but you're
okay.
close.
I'm in the neighborhood. And we're talking cybersecurity, specifically ransomware. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Nick, I was telling folks about 5 or 6 years ago, we were victimized by ransomware. They came into our radio station files, and some people in Russia stole them all away from us and demanded a ransom payment. We did not pay them, and just decided to start from scratch and rebuild the files, which is a very, very tedious process. It took us 3 or 4 years to get back to where we needed to be. But this has really become something that is just onerous. It's all over the world now, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely, we've seen a huge uptick in attacks. I'd say 30 to 40% increase in the last 6 months, and it's something, unfortunately, I think we're going to have to continue to live with.
Yeah, that being the case, I'm sure there are things that are being recommended for companies to protect themselves.
Yeah, I mean, most companies have already done a lot when it comes to cybersecurity. The problem is this surface, right, is what we call the threat surface. And so it's how exposed is that company, that business, or that person to threats. And when you talk about, we're connected in everything we do today, whether it be on our laptops or our phones. And so that threat surface just continues to get, bigger and bigger. And we got to try to find ways of plugging all those holes, rotating passwords, using multi-factor authentication, and backing up our data, installing our patches are kind of the main, tools of the trade right now. And unfortunately, we're falling behind on combating these ransomware attacks. And
we really shouldn't be, should we? These are the steps that should have been taken years ago, and it sometimes it just takes getting slapped down a little bit in order to wake up.
Yeah, and at the rate of change, right? We see technology changing so fast. I mean, from when I was in college to where we are today is just phenomenal. And so, for instance, with the Colonial Pipeline hack during the congressional testimony, it was found that during upgrading their technology at Colonial, they forgot to turn off one of their VPN devices that they no longer used. The hackers were able to do a scan of their network, find that VPN, work tirelessly to hack into it, and were able to do that and get into Colonial's network. And they didn't even know it was there because they thought they had disconnected it and thrown it away when they did a technology upgrade. So unfortunately, mistakes like that happen, and we see the consequences. And
thus work is provided for companies like Uncommon. I would guess that that's a pretty burgeoning industry that you're in right now.
There's definitely a large demand for sure. There's an aspect of it. Obviously, we're here to support and help businesses, and at the end of the day, make some money. But really, it's our civic duty to help inform and educate. And so we do a lot of conferences. We do a lot of, prior to COVID, a lot of business seminars and things like that for free to try to help inform and protect people. And we continue to do that today.
All right. So companies have various levels of competency when it comes to their cybersecurity, to their IT security overall. If you were to base it basically on a 1 to 10 scale, where do American companies stand in their preparedness to handle a ransomware?
Oh, that's a pretty loaded question. Yeah. I would say it varies by industry, and each industry, it really comes down to what you're doing. And so each business is making decisions, right? It's a risk trade-off that they have to make. How much money do I invest in cyber versus how much money do I invest in, what I do on a daily basis, like a manufacturing, plant. They're going to invest in new equipment before they spend a ton of money on cyber. So, it really depends on the industry. We're definitely seeing companies spend way more money on cyber than they have in probably the last 20 years, or probably, coming up on seeing CISO positions and things like that. So we're seeing the highest level of cyber spending we've ever seen now, but is it enough is the question.
Do the crooks who are perpetrating a cybercrime such as ransomware, do they rely upon technological advances or just volume attacking so that they can find one or two companies or industries that are really vulnerable and just exploit them?
So it's actually a little bit of both. We're seeing volume attacks where they're basically sending out mass emails to phish get you to click on something to download a payload. So, that's where we see a lot of the small businesses get impacted. So they're doing these volume emails. The small businesses, unfortunately, click on an email. It puts them in a bad spot. And these companies are only asking for, $500 to $1,000, typically on a small business ransom. But these companies will pay it. Like you said, it took you guys several years to get back. These companies can't afford to lose even a week's worth of business. So, they're paying the $500 to $1,000. Well, that adds up if you start getting 1,000 people paying you, monthly and things like that. So, we're seeing that on that scale. On the other side of the house, though, when you talk about these large companies, the JBSs, the Colonials, those are a lot more sophisticated attacks. They're finding ways to compromise an account or password. They're going through a back door. They're using, a payload that might have been hidden for several years before they decide to exploit it. And so it really depends on the spectrum. Is how they're doing this.
And I often wonder, these companies that do pay the ransomware and they get their files back, have the crooks also built in some other door to allow them to get back in when they want to, or to get to other companies with which the original victim does business? Do they have that capability?
So it's funny, is there's a little bit of a, I don't know if it's what you would call a paradox or not, but if you started to see people hacking in, using ransomware to attack somebody, getting them to pay a ransom, but then going back and hitting them again, then you're going to basically disincentivize anybody from paying a ransom. So typically you don't see people going back around and getting back into those companies. It doesn't mean that they haven't put a backdoor in there to exfiltrate other information or things like that, but typically we don't see repeat ransomware attacks on the same company because it just creates a disincentive program for people to pay ransom.
Now, the good guys who are fighting back, guys who are in positions such as yours, do you find yourself sort of some days saying, gosh, this is a global chess match I'm in. They're making this move, now I have to counter. Is that the way that whole thing works?
I was thinking through this a little bit this morning as I've been going through a series of these conversations with all these different people across America. And yes, there is a very interesting element of this that is it does feel like a chess match. It does feel like a game. What move are they going to make? How do we make sure that we, protect ourselves with a move? There's a lot of things. We actually do a lot of business with the Department of Defense, and so there's a lot of interesting strategy that they employ, what they call blue team and red team type exercises, where you, as a blue teamer, you defend, and as a red teamer, you attack, and you're always trying to figure out the next edge, the next exploit. And so those types of exercises are types of things that we do. And it's not just a government thing. That's something that private industry has adapted as well.
Yeah. I'm always interested as well in people who are in your line of business. How often do they throw a curveball and you swing and miss at it? And that ends up being pretty costly. I would guess that it's not all that often, but one or two times probably just makes somebody feel awful that they missed on one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the worst thing for me personally is when I get that small business, that mom and pop, just doing what they can to get by. They're doing great job for our community. They're providing jobs for our community, and that's something we really need right now in America. We need these small businesses to come back. We need them to be successful, and we need to get back to work as a country. And it breaks my heart when someone sends me an email and they're like, hey, so-and-so, mom and pop store got hacked, or, so-and-so's, plumbing supply store got hacked by ransomware and they're being held up for ransom. And it's just the worst thing in the world to get those types of emails. And we jump right in, and typically, especially on those small little jobs and things like that, we're doing our best to advise and assist them in a way that doesn't impact them financially. We're trying to do it in a way to get them back online because we really need those businesses back. President's
going to meet with Vladimir Putin of Russia. Can he do anything more than just shake his finger at him?
The politics side of this is interesting. I really don't see what comes out of that. There's just going to be a lot of posturing. At the end of the day, what the United States needs to do is set up extradition agreements and other types of agreements to be able to go after these cyber criminals, these cyber terrorists anywhere in the world. The Biden administration's done a great job out of the gate trying to set up some of these agreements, put some priority on cybersecurity. And I just hope we can continue to build that coalition, that international coalition that will allow us to go get these criminals.
He is Nick Powers. Where can we learn more about Uncommon? And by the way, it's spelled UNCOMN. Where do we learn more, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. We're on the web, uncomn.com. We have a lot of information out there. We have other pages as well, but that's definitely the best place to get a hold of us. If you have any problems, if you need to ask a question or you're looking for some support, we do have an email address that we've set up that people can send emails to. It's cyberhack, cyberhack@uncommon.com, uncomn.com, and we'll be happy to answer your questions, point you in the direction of somebody locally that can help you, or help you ourselves if we can, whatever we can do to help get you back online or answer any of your questions.
Hey, Nick, thanks so much for spending some time with us today. It's been enlightening. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too. We'll see you. There's Nick Powers this morning. The group is Uncommon, UNCOMN.